Hello everyone, and welcome to another video where I compare the Disney remake to the original fairy tale. Today we are going to be talking about The Little Mermaid, cause that's topical. Like I did in my last video, first I'll go over what the Disney version is like, and then I'll kind of go over what the original version was like, and compare and contrast the differences. Now, before when I was comparing Snow Queen to Frozen, I was basically bashing Frozen. I don't like the Frozen remake. However, for this, it's a little bit different because I actually like both versions. I like the Disney version and I like the original fairy tale. But they are both very different, and I think they both have different things to offer. So let's talk about the Disney's Little Mermaid. So Ariel is the youngest of her mermaid sisters, and she wants to learn more about the human world, but unfortunately her dad does not want her to learn more about the human world because he is a human hater. One night she goes up to the surface and she sees the love of her life, Prince Eric, dancing along, and when the ship crashes and Eric is about to drown, Ariel saves his life and brings him up to shore, where she sings to him, but unfortunately he's still kind of hazy and doesn't really get a good image of who she is. Eric then becomes obsessed with the idea of this woman who saved his life and wants to meet her and marry her. But of course, she knows that her father would never allow them to be together. What's more, she's a different species. However, Ursula, the sea witch, has a plan in mind to use this, and using her desire to be with the human prince to her advantage. So she invites Ariel into her little lair and decides to make a deal with her. I will make you human in exchange for your voice. However, there's a little bit more of a catch to that deal. You have to get the prince to fall in love with you with a kiss, and if you don't, you'll turn back to the mermaid and belong to me. So this is kind of a deal with the devil type metaphor, the idea like selling your soul to her, but Ariel does agree to this deal. She's reunited with Eric on the surface, but unfortunately he does not realize that she is the same girl who saved his life because she cannot speak. Despite this, the two still fall in love, and Ursula realizes that her plan might not actually work. Eric makes the conscious decision to give up on his dream girl and instead get with Ariel. Realizing this, Ursula decides to take the situation into her own hands, and she poses as the girl who saved Eric's life. Using Ariel's voice, she's able to kind of hypnotize Eric into thinking that she is the love of his life and that he must marry her. As soon as Ariel and friends realize that she is hypnotizing him, they attempt to break the spell, succeed in breaking the spell on Eric, but unfortunately her time is up and she turns back into a mermaid. Ursula then reveals that she never really wanted Ariel's soul, she wanted the Sea King's soul, King Triton. So she makes a deal with him then. In exchange for his daughter, she will have King Triton's power. And of course, the movie ends with Prince Eric taking out the Sea Witch with a big spike to the stomach. King Triton receives his power again and realizes, hey, Eric, might not be too bad, and gives Ariel her dream of being human and living with her prince. Happy ending. But what's the moral of the story? I mean, really, don't make deals with the Sea Witch, don't judge humans before you get to know them. Frankly speaking, Disney's Little Mermaid does not actually hinge on a moral like a lot of these older fairy tales do. Rather, instead, it tells you the story of good versus evil, that classic story that we all want to hear, and of course, it ends with a happy ending because happy endings give you that optimistic outlook on life. Disney is all about optimism and the magic. Disney's goal is not to have little kids crying at the end of a movie. Now let's talk about the original, Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid. Now, I will say it's very easy to see how much Disney took from the source material, all the way down to the character designs, the characters' descriptions. Ariel has pale skin and blue eyes, and Prince Eric has black hair. And very much like the Disney movie, our main character, the Little Mermaid, is very, very fond of the human world. She wants very much to see more of it. And a lot of her information that she knows of the human world is actually given to her by her grandmother, who is absent in the Disney movie. One of the key moments where the original kind of strays from the Disney movie is after Ariel saves Eric. She takes him up to the shore, but instead in the original, when Eric wakes up, he does not see Ariel beside her. Instead, there's another woman who is beside him, who finds him on the beach, and he presumes that this woman saved his life. So unfortunately, someone else kind of takes credit for something that Ariel did herself. Another important thing to mention is the lore in which this fairy tale is based on. So in this fairy tale, The Little Mermaid, mermaids do not actually have souls like humans do. Rather, instead, they live up to maybe 300 years, but when they die, they go bye-bye. They're completely obliterated. While as when humans die, they gain a soul, they go up to heaven. However, Ariel is told by her grandmother that if a human loved someone without a soul, his soul would guide her soul up to heaven. If her and Eric fell in love with each other, they could both go to heaven together. And she very much wants to see the kingdom of heaven, and she very much wants to spend eternity with somebody that she loves. So she gets fixated on the idea of making Eric fall in love with her and going to heaven with him. So in order to achieve her goal, she goes to the Sea Witch. And of course, in exchange for giving her human legs, she must also give the Sea Witch her voice. Different from the Disney version, rather than Ariel being very wobbly on her legs and kind of goofy, she's very graceful on her legs, as if she's still swimming. But she feels constant pain in her legs, as though she is being stabbed with a million knives. And rather than her giving up her non-existent soul to the devil, if she does not get the prince to fall in love with her, then she will die. So you see, the stakes are a little bit higher. Not just turning back into the mermaid, but actually being obliterated completely. Now, unlike the Disney movie, the Sea Witch is actually a pretty neutral character. Neutral evil. She doesn't want Trigon's power. She doesn't give a crap about Trigon. And she honestly couldn't care less whether or not Ariel succeeds in winning the prince's heart. So eventually, of course, the prince finds Ariel, and knowing that she cannot speak, has no clothes, has nowhere to go, he takes her in, and the two proceed to fall in love. But unfortunately for her, he confesses that she's not his first love, or she is not his first choice. He still believes that the woman who found him at the beach is the woman who saved his life, and that woman, he believes, is being raised in a church, meaning that she must be a nun. So he knows that he cannot marry this woman, but he is still in love with her and still feels indebted to her. Now, of course, the prince wants to marry for love, but his parents have decided to set him up with this princess. And before he meets this princess for the first time, he confesses to Ariel that he would not be marrying the princess because he wanted to marry for love, and that he would rather marry her because she is the only other woman he's ever loved besides his first love. So Ariel is overjoyed, thinking that she did it. She gained the prince's love. She's going to get married to him. It's going to be a happy ending. But unfortunately, the princess who he meets is actually revealed to be the so-called nun. As it turns out, she was not a nun at all. It was simply a misunderstanding. The prince believes that this is fate, that these two were arranged to marry each other. He believes wholeheartedly this woman saved his life, he's indebted to her, and unfortunately for Ariel, he just does not understand that she is the one who saved his life, that she is the one that he's indebted to. So as Ariel is preparing to die, her sisters come to her from the ocean, and she sees that they have no hair left. And they reveal that they gave up their hair in order to retrieve a dagger from the Sea Witch. If Ariel kills the prince with this dagger and drips his blood on her legs, she will turn back into a mermaid and she won't have to die. So Ariel is given a choice. Do I kill the man who doesn't return my feelings, or do I let him be happy? And of course, being the hero character that she is, she decides she will allow herself to die so that her beloved prince can be happy. She throws the dagger into the ocean, and she goes to the prince, gives him one last kiss on the forehead before jumping in the ocean herself. Now, she believes that she is dying, that she is losing herself, but then all of a sudden, she finds that there is a part of her that is still alive. She has become what is known as the Daughter of the Wind. Now, Daughters of the Wind are essentially spirits that go through the wind and spread good deeds onto other humans. And the idea is that one day they will also ascend to the kingdom of heaven. So basically, they're ghosts! Only they're good ghosts, not evil ghosts. So Ariel does not receive the love of Prince Eric, but she does receive a human soul. Now, as I mentioned before, the Disney adaptation does not have a specific moral that movie hinges on, but the original fairy tale has this moral. You cannot blame someone for not returning your affections. And if you truly love someone, of course, you will let them go. The original Little Mermaid story tells the tale of self-sacrifice and unrequited love, something that Hans Christian Andersen had dealt with personally. Unfortunately, the women that he fell in love with did not return the affection back to him, so he very much wrote his own personal self-struggle into this main character. Now, of course, Disney does not want to write a sad ending like that. Obviously, you're going to want to root for the main character achieving her dream and getting her true love. But that's not to say that Disney has never touched on the topic of unrequited love before. They've definitely done so in Hunchback of Notre Dame, and they did a fantastic job at that, I might add. But as I said before, Disney's adaptation of The Little Mermaid is a different story. A story of good versus evil. Whereas the original Little Mermaid, it's a little bit more gray than that. It's a real bummer if it ends with her not achieving her dream. So Disney decided to have a clear enemy, someone that they can rise up to and defeat in order to achieve their dreams. This is a very common factor of almost every Disney movie. Defeat the bad guy, achieve your dream. But what Disney also focuses on is a sense of justice. Now, it's not necessarily just for this original fairy tale to just have Ariel get screwed over because this other princess decides to take credit for saving Eric's life when she did not. So of course, if you change that story to make it so it's actually the Sea Witch in disguise taking credit for saving Eric's life, it feels a little bit more just when that Sea Witch is killed at the end and things are set right. But there's no real clear villain in the original The Little Mermaid. And so there's no one to really blame. Yes, if Eric knew that it was Ariel who saved him at that beach, he would have for sure married her over the princess. And they make that very clear in the original fairy tale. But that's just not how it turned out. And given that the original is supposed to include the theme of unrequited love and self-sacrifice, maybe that fits better. But of course, it is much more satisfying in a Disney movie where you can just beat up the bad guy and get your man. Like I said before, I like both versions of the story. Sure, the Disney's Little Mermaid doesn't necessarily have those commentaries on unrequited love, and it doesn't necessarily have any moral lesson to it, but does it need to? It's still an enjoyable story. And of course, you all know that I love Hans Christian Andersen's work, so I do love the original Little Mermaid tale as well. Get it? Tail? But what do you guys think of The Little Mermaid? Do you like the original? Do you like the Disney remake? Do you like both, like me? Do you hate both? Let me know down below in the comments. And of course, if you would personally like to read Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid, I will leave a link below where you can get the book yourself. As usual, remember to like the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Program restart.